Hi friends, welcome back to Sam's Safe Space, where it's always a safe space to be you. Before we dive in today, I want you to take a breath with me. Inhale and exhale. Let your shoulders soften. Just for a moment, let yourself arrive here with no judgment and no expectations. Because today's topic can feel heavy, but also incredibly freeing. We're talking about shame and judgment, the kind that sneaks into our lives and makes us believe we're not enough, not lovable, or not worthy. I'll share a personal story with you. For some time, I carried this deep sense that I had to shrink myself, be quieter, be smaller, be less. That belief didn't come from me. It came from the people around me who were uncomfortable with my light, my energy, and mostly my authenticity. They judged me or they shamed me, and I started believing their voices over mine. Maybe you felt like that too, like the judgment you hear in your head doesn't even sound like your voice, but it plays on repeat as if it's the truth. But here's what I've learned. So much of the shame we carry was never ours in the first place. It was placed on us by other people, parents who couldn't face their own mistakes, partners who projected their insecurities, teachers or friends who handed us their pain instead of healing it themselves. And when we don't realize this, we start carrying those judgments as if they're who we are. But they're not. This is where shadow work comes in. A practice that helps us look at those hidden parts of ourselves, the parts we've been taught to reject, and begin to separate our truth from their truth. So, if you've ever felt like you're carrying shame that doesn't belong to you, or judgment that's suffocating your authenticity, this episode is for you. We're going to talk about what shadow work really is, why people put their shame on others, and how you can begin the process of releasing what was never yours to hold. So let's get into it. Segment 1, the weight we carry. You've been carrying a weight that was never yours to hold. Think about this. How many times in your life have you felt ashamed of who you are? Not because you choose to, but because someone else told you to. Maybe as a child you were told, stop crying, you're too sensitive. So you learned that your emotions weren't safe and you buried them. Maybe in a relationship you were told, you're too much. So you started dimming your light, apologizing for your energy, and holding back your joy. Maybe in school, someone told you you'd never be good enough. And now you second guess yourself before you even try. Here's the thing. People shame and judge because they're avoiding their own reflection. A parent who shamed your emotions may never have learned how to handle their own. A partner who criticized you may have been drowning in insecurity themselves. And a teacher who cut you down may have been projecting their own limitations onto you. We learn to carry their words as if they're the truth. But what if they never were? Here's a reflection. What are the heaviest words you're still carrying that were never actually yours? Segment 2, what shadow work really is. This brings us to shadow work. The shadow is everything we've pushed into the dark because we were told it wasn't acceptable. But shadows aren't evil or dangerous, they're just hidden. Your shadow holds the anger you swallowed because you weren't allowed to express it, the sensitivity you pushed down because you were told to toughen up, or even the creativity or weirdness you hid because it didn't fit the mold. Shadow work is the process of turning toward those parts and saying, you're not bad, you're not unlovable, you were just pushed away because someone else couldn't accept you. Here's something powerful. Often the things in your shadow are the very things that make you most alive. Your anger is a sign that you deserve boundaries. Your sensitivity is the root of your empathy. Your too much is actually your full authenticity. Shadow work is not about fixing yourself. It's about meeting every part of you, even the ones that you've been told to hide, with love, compassion, and truth. And here's a grounding exercise. Go ahead and close your eyes. Ask yourself, what part of me have I been hiding because someone else told me it was wrong? And notice what comes up. Segment 3, why people put their shame and judgment onto others. Here's the thing. When people are carrying shame they haven't faced, it becomes too painful to hold. Shame feels like a mirror they can't look into. So they try to hand that mirror to someone else. Think of it like this. Someone who was never taught to love themselves often can't bear to see someone else living freely in their authenticity. Instead of asking, why do I feel triggered? They project their discomfort outward by judging, criticizing, or shaming others. It's not really about you at all. It's about the parts of themselves they're refusing to face. Judgment, at its core, is a form of self-protection. By labeling or shaming you, they temporarily avoid turning inward. They don't have to deal with their own insecurities if they can convince you to carry them instead. This is why we end up internalizing beliefs like, I'm too much, or I'm not enough, because someone else couldn't face their own shadow. When we realize this, it's not about excusing their behavior, but about understanding the mechanism. Shame and judgment are often more about their pain than our truth. Segment 4, how shadow work helps us release what's not ours. Shadow work is the process of reclaiming those hidden parts of yourself that you've learned to reject. And part of that process is separating your true self from the projections other people placed on you. Here's how shadow work supports this. Through awareness. The first step is recognizing when a judgment you feel inside doesn't belong to you. For example, if you hear yourself thinking, I'm lazy or I'm unlovable, pause and ask, whose voice is this really? Where did I first hear this? Another one is through compassionate curiosity. Instead of fighting with that inner voice, you gently turn toward it with curiosity. You might discover it came from a parent, a teacher, a past relationship. It's not you, it's a reflection of their shadow, or even reparenting the self. Shadow work gives you the chance to step in as your own loving parent. When an old voice of judgment rises up, you can respond with compassion. I see you. I know where you came from, but you're not my truth anymore. And integration. Over time, instead of rejecting those parts of yourself, you began to integrate them. You reclaim your authenticity, your boldness, your sensitivity, whatever you were taught to be ashamed of. And once it's reclaimed, that shame no longer has power over you. In other words, shadow work is how we set down what never belonged to us and pick up the parts of ourselves we abandoned along the way. Segment 5, practical tools for starting shadow work. Shadow work can feel overwhelming at first, but it doesn't have to be complicated. It starts with awareness, reflection, and small steps. Here's a way you can begin today. The first step is notice the trigger. Whenever you feel shame, guilt, or judgment rising, pause. Don't rush past it. Ask yourself, what was just said or done that made me feel small, wrong, or not enough? An example would be you feel embarrassed when someone teases you about being quiet. The second step is identify the origin. Ask yourself, when was the first time I remember feeling this way? Whose voice does this sound like? An example, maybe as a child you were told, speak up or you'll never be heard. That voice belongs to someone else, not your authentic self. The third step is ask, is this mine? This is the heart of shadow work. Reflect, is this belief or judgment truly mine? Or was it given to me by someone else who couldn't hold their own pain? An example would be realizing your shame around being quiet isn't proof that you're not enough. It's evidence of someone else's discomfort with silence. The fourth step is reframe with compassion. Once you see it's not yours, respond to yourself with kindness. What would I say to my younger self in this moment? What truth do I want to hold on to instead? An example is telling yourself, it's okay to be quiet. My presence has value, even without words. The fifth step is integrate. Each time a trigger arises, repeat the process. Notice, origin, ask, and reframe. Over time, this becomes second nature. Journaling, meditation, or voice notes can help you track your progress and make the unconscious conscious. The key reminder, shadow work is not about fixing yourself. It's about unlearning what was never yours and reclaiming the parts of you that have always been worthy. As we wrap up today's conversation, I want you to really sit with this truth. So much of the shame and judgment you've been carrying was never yours. It was handed to you by people who didn't know how to carry their own pain, their own insecurities, or their own shadows. And you are not responsible for holding what was never meant to be yours. Shadow work isn't about digging up every dark memory or blaming people who hurt us. It's about gently shining a light on the parts of ourselves that we've hidden and giving them the compassion they've always deserved. Every time you pause and ask, is this mine, or does this belong to someone else? You take one step closer to freedom. Every time you reframe judgment into self-compassion, you reclaim a piece of your power. And I want you to remember, you are not broken, and you don't need fixing. You are simply uncovering the wholeness that has always been within you. So, as you move through the rest of your day, I invite you to notice if shame or judgment shows up. Instead of pushing it away or believing it blindly, get curious. Ask the questions. Hold space for yourself. This is how healing begins, one gentle moment at a time. Thank you for sharing this space with me today. If this episode resonated, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might need this reminder, or leave a review so we can keep growing this safe space together. And remember, this is a journey. You don't have to rush it. You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to begin. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You're doing better than you think.